welcome on behalf of everyone here, like Adgard, us, Google was supporting, to be here because I think it's really important. We mentioned it a few times in the last few days that this event tends to be the closest event to web extensions development. So it's really nice to also have the browser with us. Traditionally, we've been, bringing the browser representatives up to grill them a bit and also ask them stuff. Like last year was Manifest v3. This year might be, any guesses? Any one of the topic? Huh?
AI.
AI. AI is one of the topics actually, but also I would like to give the opportunity to to switch gears after a few topics and also invite you all to think about how we can, as a community of web extension developers, to help you to achieve some of the stuff that you have in mind. So I'm gonna start with some questions to get things started, but then I would like to open it to everyone. If you have anything that you would specifically like to ask our wonderful representatives. So let me start by the obvious question about AI, which is whether you have any plans of bringing AI into the browser the way that Safari is trying to do by having a small LLM on device or in browser and accessible for web extensions.
Yes.
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 Look into it.
You're looking into it? You want to share some more information about it? We're not recording this call, or maybe we are.
We have a sidebar extension kind of thing with our AI assistant that we call Leo. And you can use that to summarize pages. You can use that to kind of coalesce information and do a bunch of tests like that. So, and we're always looking at extending that further.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Chrome side, we have a ton of different AI features that integrate with both Gemini Nano as well as Gemini non-Nano on the server side. And as I mentioned yesterday, we are planning on exposing a prompt API to extensions that they can then interact with that directly. So
cool.
In Firefox, I don't know too much of the details, but I've seen questions about how to create extension APIs with very limited permissions to of AI functionality.
Got
as in a new extension API guarded by very specific permissions.
Thank you.
In Opera, we have Area. You can use it with your Opera account or without it, and you also can summarize text, generate some images, etc. So yeah, we have it.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Can you throw him the box, please?
The original question about AI was from me or everyone?
It was, yes.
Okay. So my point is that product-wise, each of you tries to implement some AI features in the browsers. And to be honest, makes little sense. We have ChatGPT for that. But exposing these capabilities to browser extensions give huge capabilities for us to make your browsers better. And the first of you who expose this capability will have most benefits because the amounts of things that are useful to browser extensions to the users of browser extensions. It might be small groups. You can't cover them all with your Gemini or Aura or whatever. But as a whole, they are all interested in many narrow features, and we as browser extension developers will bring it. Don't spend too much time on that. Give us APIs and just relax. We will do all the rest.
Do you have API proposals?
I'll bring it as long when Chrome accepts me to this early adopters program. We will play with it, and then I'll bring something.
I will say my recommendation for the meantime is use APIs to do the same thing. So it doesn't have to be hosted on the device necessarily, but if you're just prototyping, that's the way to go. And you can probably just drop in, replace some other model once it's available on device.
It's okay for experimenting with things, but on our scale, we will very quickly go bankrupt if we do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I my impression is that these things are coming, so the prototyping can be done. Yeah.
Anyone would like to ask anything follow up on AI? I would like to move away a bit from the AI and focus a bit more into the web extension developers. So I would like to ask from each one of you, like how, given that all the web technologies continue to evolve, what are the steps that you're taking in order to make, like, in a short life of web extension developers easier, particularly when it comes to performance profiling, debugging complex web applications? Want to start with Rob? The other way around?
Actually, all the way around.
Huh?
Oh,
Yeah, you can use it.
can you repeat the question? I missed the first
No,
part.
sorry. I'm just asking, like, what are the steps that you're taking in order to accommodate the needs of web extension developers, given that, we have more technologies that continue to evolve. And for example, I'll give an example when it comes to performance profiling and debugging complex applications.
So you're basically asking for the tools available in the browser to test
Correct.
that. So I showed to one of you earlier today how to see issues in memory or performance issues in browser. Firefox has a profiler built in.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to profiler.firefox.com, you can click on some button to enable the profiler feature of the browser. And that allows you to profile everything in the browser, in the web page, in the browser itself, in the extension process. Give that a try.
All right. Will do. Thank you.
Okay, so it's maybe not that much my area of interest, let's say. I need just to check it with the team because it's not.
Well, if you have a manifest v2 extension, you can continue using it in Brave. You're welcome, Andre.
So to the broader question of what are we doing for developers to make their lives easier? I think one of the biggest things is looking for what those pain points are and how we can address them. Mm-hmm. And the way that we address those depends so much on what those pain points are. Sometimes it's an issue of documentation or exposing well-lit paths for how you do different things. Performance was one of the things you mentioned. That's where we're working on expanding out DevTools to have better support for extensions. And so Oliver recently did a project to expose extension storage directly in DevTools, looking at those places where the web has moved really fast and has really great tooling and extensions haven't quite kept up. That's one of the areas that we're focusing on, seeing how can we catch up? How can we bring those tools to extensions? Mm-hmm. So performance profiling with things like Lighthouse or DevTools itself, but then also, again, just figuring out what is missing. And I think the web extensions community group is also a really good example of that, where it is both a forum for people to raise, hey, this is really hard, and for us to all hear it, but then also for us to work as browser vendors and see, how do we make it better for developers across the board, and how do we align so that you don't have quite as many differences between browsers and have to code different ways? But that only works if you're a Manifest v3 extension. So,
well, coding in different ways is a self-imposed problem sometimes, isn't it?
I think the web extensions community group has been mentioned quite a few times over the past few days, and it's like a place where, like, the majority of you all getting together, browsers, to talk about, like, compatibility, leveling the playing field, and new APIs. But something that, because I recently joined one of the sessions, like, something that I missed a bit was, like, the engineers, the web extension developers. Like, how can we, and, maybe it's more focused to you. Are you members of the web extensions community group?
Not really.
Not really. Are you? You are?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. So my question to be like, or you can also answer this question, because, I think it's ideal to bridge that gap between the users, the web extension developers, and the browser makers, to be like, okay, how do we make sure that we, get closer to the community, hear their problems, and address some of the issues in order to be able to improve the technologies and the experience of the users?
It's not just browser vendors talking with each other. It's a community group. Everyone is welcome to participate. In fact, we have Carlos here, who is also a very prolific participant in the group. He's an extension developer. All we can do is to make the world aware of the fact that this group exists and accept feedback there.
And I think it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think that the Web Extensions Community Group is an excellent forum that is open, that does give us a lot of valuable feedback. But I think that we're going to have to do other things as well. And that's why we have public mailing lists on Chromium that you can reach out to. We have support channels, but then also, I mentioned yesterday, I think events like this are so much more important sometimes than those for things like high bandwidth conversations and getting to know people and being able to sit down with them and really kind of dive into a particular issue. And so I think that you need that variety of different approaches for how do we bring the users, the developers, and the browser vendors all together and really get that feeling. And there's a number of different events apart from this as well. I know that like Oliver and Patrick have been busy attending Google I/O Outreach and Google Developer Expert meetings and things like that. So there's different opportunities, and I think making sure that we're embracing those and expanding those and continuing to use those is also one of the biggest things.
Gotcha. And you want to talk about like some of the efforts that you have like with community? I know specifically Brave is really active into a lot of communities around privacy, around security, and Yeah,
I guess this is not exactly a upcoming feature necessarily, but I have done a little bit of looking into actually like what happens if you can extend ad blocking into extensions that are maybe closed source or proprietary or whatever, and you want to fix them up a little bit better. And so that is an area of ongoing research. Maybe that's a topic for a future ad filtering developer summit. But that is kind of the angle that we look at extensions from, is like, how do we make them safer for users, and because there is a lot of privacy harm that goes on in some of these random extensions you might be able to find, and that's not always documented in the privacy policy that's easy to find or something like that.
Gotcha. Dina, anything from your side?
I see that there's a way like where we go, where we need to go, of course, but like I can speak on behalf of people who are working on extensions, so that's why.
That's fine.
Ask a
Question: is anyone at Opera actively working on extension APIs?
Yes, we have a team for it, but like they're not present here, so like I'm just not. It's out of my area, unfortunately.
Are they aware of the Web Extensions community group, or you have no idea?
Not yet, but I'll tell them. Yeah,
Great.
Thanks.
New member. Yes. All right. I want to switch the gears a bit, and I would like to ask, what are the things that you would like ad blocker, or maybe a web extension a web extension or / add-on to do that the browser can do? Because there are some cases that you have to be a bit neutral. So what are something that we can help you with by for keeping the web open and continue advancing technologies? I know it might take some time, like more.
Well, maintaining filter lists is great, so keep up the good work, guys.
Sure. By the way, you wanna?
Okay, so
you have a list.
so I guess we want a more unified response, at least with all the extensions, because at the moment, obviously all the extensions have their own sort of way of doing things. uBlock Origin has their thing, AdGuard has their thing, eyeo has their thing. If we could get more features that are more between all extensions that could be used, we could develop scriptlets, we could develop things that could be used on all extensions. Because at the moment it's so fragmented that, say if you roll out a feature, you go, well, it's only going to work on 2/3 or 1/3 of the products out. Mm-hmm. So if we could have some way of at least a more unified approach, ideally bring AdBlock Plus eyeo further up to allow more features and allow us to do more things, I guess is what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
If only there was a tool that allowed you to convert from different formats.
Well, you could convert it, but it'll probably ignore it. It'll say, "Hey, this feature, it won't convert it because it'll just ignore it because there's no such feature in say AdBlock Plus because they don't have that feature." But it would be nice if we could bring everyone up, have a more unified approach, and at least that means that we can roll out something and go, well, it'll work for everybody, and there'll be no incompatibility issues. And it means that everyone, say, if we can improve tracking, it will just be like we can remove parameters on all browsers and all extensions, for example, and things like that. So it's just that'll be my main wish for something like that. If you wanted to like improve the AdBlock experience in general, is just allow more features to be added quickly as well. And if someone has a good idea in one extension, there's no harm in learning from that extension and go, well, that's not a bad idea. We could put our spin on it and contribute back, or just take it correctly because it's open source. Most everything's pretty much open source these days, and you can just say, hey, they did something pretty well. Sometimes super secret Slack that we can discuss these things. But all I'm saying is that we can contribute, share a lot of like the scriptlets, a lot of the features amongst all the ad blocking things, whether you use them readily or not. But at least it means that we can actually use them. That was my TED talk.
Thank you.
To your original question of what would we like ad filters and content blockers and things like that to do, I think that there's always an opportunity for this community to be more opinionated than the browser can be. Mm-hmm. The browsers are usually very conservative in what we want to block or say is wrong, because we know that there's such a variety of different users, different needs, and the risk of getting it wrong is so very high, and to deploy a fix is very, very costly. And also there's a lot of regulatory pressure that I know that you're not exempt from, but there's a lot of hurdles there. And I think that there's an opportunity for this community to be a little bit more opinionated in some of those areas of when they say, yes, this is wrong. And right now there's that for tracking and for disruption and annoyance. But over the years, we've also heard at these talks of doing that for things like, no, this is fake news, this is propaganda, this is overly impactful to the environment because it's too costly, and being able to, whether that's through exposing that to users or through settings or through something, being able to take the same kind of pressure that you've been able to put on the advertising industry and led to things like the acceptable ad standards, being able to take that and say, yeah, if there's things that are going too far off the rails in these dimensions, we can empower the users to block those. And I think that's one of the things that I would personally find very, very interesting and impactful from this community to do, or to continue doing and enhance it more. Because, like I say, I know that you have been doing that as well. So,
anyone else from the panel who wants to add something?
I have a question for you. You ask for a group. Are you asking for the ad blockers, content filters to get together to do something, or are you asking something from us, the browsers, to organize, do something?
It's probably more the devs of the various extensions. I'm not sure if it's a way of like communicating with each other, but at least I presume all the devs would watch each other's what they do and what they implement, and it'd be nice to have some way of, at least for them to share ideas, or at least implement similar features amongst each other. So we're not being sort of, we only have to do, we only support one extension rather than all of them, for example. So if somehow they, were more active on other forums, say for example with eyeo, for example, maybe they would join
AdGuard and uBlock Origin GitHubs and be a little more, just not say vocal, but just, chat, like just say, hey, this is a good idea. How about, X and Y as well. So be more interactive on, say, GitHub, for example. That would be, and at least then they can bring up ideas, and then they say, well, yeah, we'll take that as well, and we'll implement it as well, because most of it's just JavaScript as well. So it could be literally a drop-in replacement for another extension. So you could take what gets implemented and just take with the JavaScript, modify it slightly, and just chuck it into your extension. But the idea would be also to help the process as well. So help the extension lead authors of the various extensions, and from there they can decide what they can do with what they've just co-developed essentially, and implement it in their own way. So we can, in theory, just roll out one filter for all extensions.
Can I comment on this, because this is probably more for us than for the browser guy. So we time and time again we kind of touch upon this topic that the blocking developers need to collaborate more. And there's nothing we can do at the moment save for small steps. And AG3 that was introduced last year and also today, one of the things where we should start is working together with filters maintainers on the compatibility tables. Once we have this initial data on all kinds of incompatibilities, it will be much easier for every developer, for us, for eyeo, for uBlock Origin, to catch up, to find similarities or not similarities, and close the gaps. So we invite every filter maintainer to help with the compatibility tables.
Also, anyone can make a community group.
Yeah, in the future.
The reason for asking was, a few years ago when Chrome came out with MV3, the ad blocking community came together with a list of demands for improved extension APIs, and Chrome implemented some of them. I spoke with many of you yesterday. I wondered whether Firefox continues to support blocking web requests. Chrome does not. And all extension developers I talked to want to continue using blocking web requests. So clearly there is something there that is missing from DNR. Is there anything that you would like to see in DNR that is not currently there, and that is generally useful by more extensions, that is not on anyone's radar yet? And that kind of questions is, these kinds of topics is something I'm looking for.
Maybe some of the developers, Christos, you had ideas.
I would rather do a opposite shout out. Please stop standardizing things. Let us do our job. We're better than in innovation. Free market is better at innovation than the standard bodies. We can move faster. We can innovate better. We can do things that you haven't thought of yet. Let us do our jobs. Give us APIs. That's what we need.
I have an idea for an API. Blocking the web.
Yeah, actually, that would be a great idea. Imagine, now, Brave allows the blocking web request, but it doesn't have extension store. Can we have optional blocking web requests just for Brave? So so the Chrome store won't reject this add-on. That would be more fragmented ecosystem, sure, but a more flavorful.
So blocking web request is supported for policy installed extensions, so we don't have any restriction for uploading to the store with blocking web request.
That's great.
It just won't work in Chrome, but yeah.
It'll work in Brave.
So there's one more thing that Simeon was suggesting several times. Find a way to, even without bringing the blocking web request, we can find, there should be a way to bring some custom logic into this that runs outside somewhere in a sandbox. You know the dream, right?
So we definitely want to do something like that. And in a perfect world, we would be able to execute this JavaScript that it runs in the black box and only returns the single value and can't exfiltrate any value. Yeah, we've looked at it a lot, and it's tricky. And there's a couple of different pieces that have set some precedent. Some of them actually coming out of things like Privacy Sandbox, where some of the initiatives there were somewhat similar, of being able to run some code that doesn't leak anything and returns a result. We are very much looking at those and watching them and seeing where they go and whether there's something there that we can use, because our goal is privacy and performance. It's not to hinder development. So when there is a technology like that makes sense, that we can fit well into the browser and that is feasible for us to implement and maintain, I think we'd be very, very interested in pursuing that.
And there's an invitation to come up with a proposal that finds a good balance between security, privacy, and functionality.
And implementability. We have limited hours.
Yes, Patrick. Let's open it up for Oh!
So, the first applause. So just to summarize back to your original question, I think the biggest request as a browser person is just participate.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of times where if you don't tell us what's wrong with the APIs we're talking about, we can't find out that they're wrong until they ship, and then it takes a lot longer to fix them. So even if you don't think you have a particular opinion, just reading the notes or listening on the calls or something so that you can tell us when we are going down the wrong path would be very valuable. So just, if you're here, you care enough to probably be a part of the group.
Oh, wait.
I think one more thing that I kind of have been facing issue is like kind of having a common breakage portal, like which is technical enough so that like researchers can actually go on and replicate those. Like AdGuard does have it on the issues page where they do mention the versions and stuff. But if I see Google, like you have Google groups where there are discussions. But like if I want a specific portal to kind of have a discussion across all the content blockers or ad blockers, be it from the browser side or be it from the content blocker sides, there's no one central platform which kind of talks about that. And I mentioned about breakage, but it could be around other extensions, which is malicious, where users see malicious behavior and then they kind of report it so that people can actually replicate it in some form.
On the content blockers, something that started from last year's Ad Filtering Dev Summit is like the Slack. So there's a Slack instance, and then we started having some calls. They were being really well attended. We have AdGuard, Ghostery, people from eyeo, from AdBlock Plus, some people from Google as well. So, I mean, that's the closest thing to, us coming together in a bit. It's kind of a bit limited to the participants of Ad Filtering Dev Summit because they know it from here. The Slack, but it's open for everyone to join. So, maybe we need to take this opportunity more and create a better way of communicating and sharing information with.
Yeah, but like to add to it, having a discussion forum to get things resolved.
Yep.
That's one thing. Another thing is to have a kind of data set of all the breakages that have been occurring so that like people who are like researching this stuff kind of can access those material to kind of make more aware stuff or kind of make more aware research.
I will invite you to join the Slack instance and join one of the meetings to discuss that, how we can make that happen. Anyone from the audience a question for? It's time. We have all of them in front of us. It's time. Go.
Yeah, not
Ask
so much
anything.
of a question, but a comment on the previous discussion point. So yes, we do have discussion forums as well for all 4 platforms. Actually, I've been following those platforms for quite a while now, but I only see maybe it's just a problem of dissemination of information with most developers. If I'm not wrong with the numbers, there are like around 13,000 or 12,000 posts in the Google forum, which is the most popular among all 4. But we are talking about 200,000 extensions. Probably there are many more developers and they have many more concerns. It's, as I said, like it's partly problem of awareness. Maybe they don't even know about the platform and such. So maybe this is something browser vendors could do to reach out to the developers from their side. Like probably there's an email chain going on that whenever they submit an extension, maybe there's a follow back and such. I don't know, maybe there exists a better channel, but my impression is that, many people are not even aware of discussion forums where they can report stuff, where they can discuss stuff with other fellow developers and such. I mean, I could totally understand with the Slack channels that you guys created. Of course, there's like scalability problem, and that's normal. But I mean, my request, my suggestion would be, because browser vendors have far better reach in that sense. So
we've been doing a lot of that in incorporating that forum on the Chrome side for the Chromium group with various announcements or linking to it from the developer dashboard and things like that. So we have been trying to signal boost it a little bit more in the past years.
There was one behind. Andre, what's going on?
So I thought Patrick brought up a good point, and a lot of you have mentioned it, he was mentioning it too. Participate in the forum group, be an active voice. I mean, this is our first time here. I just learned about this randomly last year. I had no idea, and I'm very happy to be here because I'm getting one-on-one time, and it's whatever. I'm not in a tech hub, so it's nice to be around other developers. It feels like a little lonely sometimes for me. But my question for you all is there any difficulties you all have with us as developers? Is there anything else you need help with?
You ask a lot.
Yep.
It's reaching you and getting you to follow best practices, and maybe not you personally, but for example, when we offered extensions on Firefox for Android again, there was a limited set of extensions in the first pilot, and then we wanted to have stricter best practices before opening up more broadly, and we had little success with getting extension authors to adopt these best practices because to extension developers, it's difficult to see the benefits. So if there are multiple extensions installed in one browser and these extensions do not follow the best practices, then that will lead to a poorer user experience. And I can also see from the perspective of my team, we are a small team, we cannot do everything, and I guess that's true for most extension developers.
Yeah, it's a little tricky because I think that this is exactly the group that we don't need to tell these things to. So, but there's definitely a lot of developers out there, like Rob said, don't always follow the documentation, don't always follow those best practices, and that's definitely causing problems for us. I think one of the other things is just when providing feedback or feature requests or stuff like that, being descriptive as possible. So, when filing a bug, having minimal reproduction cases if possible, things like that. Don't just say, this API doesn't work, we can't do anything with that. When looking for new features, one of the things we usually push for is, what are you trying to do? Don't just propose the API because maybe there's another way of doing it. Maybe we have a different idea for an API. Maybe this overlaps with another use case. And so kind of focusing on this idea of here's what I'm trying to do. And then we can kind of go from there and say, is that a use case that we want to support? If so, what might that API look like? But yeah, just kind of focusing on that collaborative nature and making sure that when filing bugs, when filing feature requests, when filing feedback, there's enough of that dialogue that we can go on, and that it isn't kind of a stonewall of there's a coworker who has a deck that says basically, I need a chainsaw because he wants to cut a pie. But it just stonewalls at, I need a chainsaw. And it's like, we can't give you a chainsaw. So being able to have that open dialogue rather than kind of stonewalling at any point. But like I say, I think this is the exact wrong group that needs to hear that. So tell your friends.
Yeah, maybe also open sourcing as much as possible. I think that's the first place that developers would look to understand what kind of a use case some API is being used for, and what patterns are being used in the wild. So that's probably the jumping off point for API design.
I'd like to quickly address all browsers save for Chrome. So we all three have some kind of content blocking capabilities. So an ad blocker, and something blocker. The tracking blocker. Sorry, it's not. I don't know what the name.
There is something in Chrome too.
We can. You can have one. My point is that one of the sources, common sources of breakage, is when the user uses two different content blocking solutions. And currently, your browsers do not provide the content blocking extensions with a way to indicate their presence. So it might make sense if you see that the user installed a specific the special ad blocker, then maybe the user doesn't want to use yours, and maybe it's better to maybe either pause it until this ad blocker is working or maybe provide an API that allows us to sync somehow to not cause additional breakage. Just an idea.
So there is accessible resources. You can declare other extensions that you can communicate with. You can implement solutions to communicate among extensions.
But I want to communicate with their browsers, with the browser's native blocking.
External communication network. Yeah. I'm just pointed out, I meant externally connectable.
Yeah, well, my point is that I would like to indicate the presence of a content blocking solution to the browser, and then you can make a decision. And probably you know the breakage numbers better than me, so maybe not better, but also know. Maybe you can make something happen after you learn that there's an app.
Essentially, a problem of ad blockers specifically, if users encounter a broken site that is not the control of the ad blocker, but of the browser or the user. And what I see very often, that it gets better touched when some users install multiple ad blockers at the same time. They somehow believe that protects them more.
And this kind of API could help this case as well. So what I suggest basically is to provide an API, something like register content, a content blocker. And when you see that every content blocker registers itself and says, I'm blocking this, the other one says, I'm blocking this. When you see the intersection, you may indicate this to the user that maybe you should kind of think about sticking to one.
So you're kind of asking for a conflict resolution mechanism between extensions. The browser does not have enough information to resolve that.
You are a part of this problem. You also are a part of blocker. And we don't, someone should be a mediator. It can't be one of extensions. You're the only possible mediator.
Right. So we are the party that could mediate. But I don't know how we should resolve this conflict. So if you have concrete suggestions on how to resolve kind of conflicts in authority, please offer concrete suggestions.
I think
maybe
my answer was covered hard, but it's a tricky question actually because and mostly it's security reason. So to give, for example, extensions ID, I installed as a student profile. So it's decided to be a security also.
Yeah, I would say also it's not always easy to tease out the reason why a user installed another extension. Maybe it's because they felt that the first one just wasn't good enough somehow. Maybe they felt that, they need this specific feature from this other extension. And anything else from the other one was fine. That's maybe something that the usability team was put up with. I think that is something that is more research and understanding of user behavior.
Yes, I have a little addition. Maybe we can look into from future, I don't know how to say, new functionality from last year talk, where you suggest to list extensions with use it, not private. What? Not DNR. No, they was talking about, and they will list extensions with permissions. Maybe we can do it like
this on the show on the page, like which ad blockers currently running, and you can just add another system options like system ad blocker and external ad blockers, and just user maybe just select on each page. I don't know how maybe something like this.
Well, this is something that needs lots of thought. I would have brought it to the community group, but then the Brave developer are there. So once they are there, it makes sense to bring it there and discuss. But Safari is also relevant because they also have this thing, this protection.
So even if other browser vendors aren't there to participate in those discussions, it feels like it would still be valuable to bring up the web extension community group, and then we can tag in members of those groups for additional discussion. I say this as the chair of the group.
I love that. Sure. And your request for a way for extensions to disable it?
No. I request for a way for extensions to indicate that what they do. So content blocking in general, so that you could mediate between several content blockers, so that you make a decision on what's going to have a mechanism.
I'll need to back to that later. You also asked for a way to disable the built-in anti-tracking protection of the browser.
This eventually, in the end, this is your decision to disable it or enable it. It's a security problem if we, as an extension, have a way to disable it.
Right. So there are already multiple browser features available to the privacy settings API of privacy APIs. I'm not sure if there's already a setting to control that could be an effort base to control it. Like to your old request of communicating between extensions to control which filter should be enabled or disabled. That is something that you can already implement these days. There is already a great example of threshold tabs that allowing other extensions to basically plug into the threshold tab extension with extra functionality added to the context menu. Something like this is already a very great experience for all the extension developers, for users. And if you are asking for a way to resolve conflicts, you can prototype, work together with some of the other extension developers here to build an existing proof of concept that works, and then show this is something that would be really useful to be built in extension API.
One thing I want to be careful of too is the whole this is your default browser, this is your default whatever, search engine. I feel as soon as this kind of API is revealed to ad blockers, they're going to popping up all the time saying, hey, we noticed we're not your default ad blocker, we want to switch everything on. That's going to be even more annoying.
I just one machine there, and then I see another.
No, just seeing a thumbs up. Okay. Actually, just a quick comment to Cameron's original question about things that the group can do for browsers. One thing that this group may do get better that would be great would be documentation feedback. If there's either tooling from the groups, like on our TypeScript stuff, or if there's docs that are out of date or wrong or missing or could be better, just let us know. We would love them to be as useful as possible. But please let us know when they suck so we can change that.
And I'm being a microphone is back. That's us. Hour in one time. How long? 15 minutes. Huh? Okay. Can we have the microphone?
Please. I just don't want to throw it at someone's head.
Here.
All right. Regarding shields, say for example, you install AdGuard and it disables shields. There's a lot of other things that shields does, for example, that we disabled without AdGuard run that could be bad for users. Like there's some, for example, you have some stuff like to anti-Braves represent run. So if you said let's install AdGuard, it detects you run with shields, just disable shields, it would then say, no, because you're not a Brave specific ad blocker. So any of those websites will suddenly become free range for them, okay? And there's other things that we include that help that user as well. So having that, I can see that having the functionality is great, but there'll be a detriment on shields unless with Brave, if we disable parts of shields, which you wouldn't cover, would be bad for us as well.
If I may, I'm not suggesting an API that sets the default end blocker. What I'm saying is that ad blockers can. I wanted it for an API where ad blockers indicate their presence to the browser, and then the browser decides what to do, or the user. Well, eventually the user, but anyways, the browser may decide to not suggest disabling anything, or to suggest to disable all ad blockers except one, but keep their own default one also running. So it doesn't matter. It's the browser's decision.
Can you clarify what you mean by ad blockers working against each file, basically having conflates? Because the DNR API, for example, describes a way, allows extensions to register whether to block a resource. And if multiple extensions say, I want to block events, block. If all of them say it's blocked, it should be blocked. It will be blocked.
Well, basically, if you open Gorkil's Twitter, then he, on the regular basis, he tweets about that they're receiving lots of irrelevant reports because people tend to use different blockers at the same time. And the reason for the conflicts is that ad blockers come with sets of different filter lists. For instance, this is regional. So we usually use easy list as a base one and build upon it. But for instance, Edgar doesn't use easy privacy. It uses a tracking protection list, which are kind of different and would be problematic and used together. Or uBlock Origin and AdBlock Plus in Russia use a red list, which is like a prominent old list. Edgar uses it's completely different list. In maintainers of these two lists, they couldn't come to an agreement, and they are just incompatible.
So, are there too many things being blocked? Is that a problem?
Oh, it's all kinds of different packages. Like it can be a broken website because one filter maintainer decided to combat that one way, the other one used another way with it. One went with the scriptlet, the other one went with the cosmetic rule. But these ways are incompatible, so you end up with like unresponsive websites. That just happens.
So based on what you're describing, it sounds like rather than automatic conflict resolution, potentially another solution could be more transparency to the user, or what causes the change in this website. So maybe from UI that shows so many things have been blocked in this page by these extensions. Is that something that you would?
Another UX way that you could use without coming up with a new API is, as far as I understand, most of the browsers provide a way for the user to report an issue with a web page. And if the user has an ad blocker installed, maybe you could suggest that, maybe the issue has something to do with the ad blocker. Maybe you can integrate it somewhere. What problem we have is tons of reports that we don't want to have because we can solve them because these are conflicts. These are conflicting issues. You are probably getting the same irrelevant reports because this is some ad blocker or several ad blockers that broke something. Maybe we can find some solution so that neither we nor you were receiving these reports, and the users could solve this problem on their own when they're in the browser.
That's I think that's a question.
Yeah, so I had two different things here also, because one thing is when user report a problem that website they blocked, and they report, and we then suggest to disable, for example, ad blocker, and we do it actually. So it's automatically when we receive such kind of reports. And another thing, like it's to maintain all this out. Yeah, so
What we're doing right now, we also suggest like disable this, disable that. The fact that we received the report is a symptom of a problem. So the user was already unhappy. What we need to solve is how do we not make the user unhappy in the first place, how we be proactive and explain that, well, this could be the source of the problem. You can solve it like right in.
Yeah, but example with this list with room, yes, road list and another one, like as you have, like it's similar case because user can just add it to the custom list. So they can add both of them as custom list and they also will have the same problem.
Yes, but this this is much harder to do. So this kind of intersection is very rare. But users installing several ad blockers is an old issue that we're all facing. So for some reason, they're not everyone.
We have 3 versions. I'm not sure I saw the order that you left in your hands. I saw there for sure. And
I don't have a question. I rather have a comment to this. I mean, on the browser side, it could easily be fixed because if you take, for example, 2 extensions that override new tab, essentially the least last installed extension actually is active one, which it could be similar to the ad blocks, but you don't find that solution. So
it's actually doomed with true conflicts. Like if there are conflicts in the single rule that's applied, we will use conflict resolution number. I think the problem that we're writing here is that it's not a fundamental conflict in rule. It's 2 rules that are independent of each other that don't directly conflict, but then end up causing problems on the page. So that we wouldn't want to pick only one then, because that would effectively be disabling an entire blocker as potentially not usable.
Yeah. Or maybe like having a stat exchange for extensions where like when people face some problems, they put it out, there's a discussion to resolve it, and then other people can just look out the same stuff and then like follow the same approach to solve it. So like same people do not have to come across the same problem. Sorry, different people don't have to come across.
It says Stack Overflow. I can't really develop it basically an answer before I start actually working on projects themselves. And it's just, there's not many people that answer this question, and then the volume of that is very and it's all involved with this capability. So there's the Cronin mailing list, there's Stack Overflow, and so many different places to ask questions and hopefully get answers.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, that there's so many different places that a user is confused as in where to go. If there's like one stop place where like you can find it, might be.
It's a problem. It's all wrong that you answer.
I was just gonna suggest a simple solution for Firefox, using Firefox as an example. You know how you have the tracker protection feature built in, and it shows up in the URL bar, left side, the shield icon. And if you go into the settings page, you see block fingerprinters, block suspected fingerprinters, and they all are based, I'm sure, at least partially on some list of domains. And I know that you can select the list of domains you can subscribe to for block known trackers and stuff. There's level 1, level 2, level 3 in Firefox. And these briefs, it's far more comprehensive. That Ryan is right, and would pose a lot more complications to bring the Firefox. Let's say, for example, a user visits the Mozilla add-ons page, right? And when they click install on ABP, UBO, AdGuard, etc., maybe just a simple dialogue pops up saying, are you sure you, right? Or
a drop down could pop up from the protection, the little shield icon in the URL bar saying you are using 2 content blockers. Maybe disable this list. Something maybe just that lets the user at least be informed as opposed to making the decision for them. I don't know. I just thought, because basically what happens, I think what has been lost in translation a few times is that, okay, so you have UBO installed, you have a filter list, you're blocking a bunch of stuff, a bunch of specific stuff is whitelisted as well as allowed. But if you also have Firefox's built-in tracker protection on, and you have AdGuard or UBO disabled, right? Or you have both enabled at the same time, they can override each other in a variety of ways. Especially with Brave, which is why there's no point even using one with Brave. Using an additional one. But in Firefox, it's a lot more limited, and yeah, I think there is room for a simple solution, maybe just inform the user. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I was just trying to help. Sorry.
Yeah, I think yes, I built in browser UI. I think it would be useful if there's a way to put every useful piece of information in one place. It's difficult to do it right though. Extensions already have their own browser UI button, and they could also show the same kind of information to the user. It's not really obvious to find information of what it means. And browsers cannot really decide on their own what is important to the user in all cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is also not just about ad blockers. It's generally a larger one, but different extensions are installed that can conflict with each other or do contradicting or conflicting things on the website. I have 2 extensions installed, for example, and they both try to augment login forms. And they put a nice little icon on the right-hand side of the input field. And of course, they're both in the same spot. So they are overlaying each other. And of course, they don't know anything about each other. So otherwise, they probably would work around it. But it's a general problem of different extensions interfering with each other indirectly through the website, because they're both making changes to the website and might even conflict or even contradict each other or undo things or try to undo things that the other extension.
We have few more minutes left, so
I'll just take one. Sorry. Me and online. Sorry. We're discussing what if someone decides to install a bad list, for example. And this is like a bad extension, essentially, where would you allow, if you know, knowing, say, a list that hasn't been updated from, say, a year or 2 ago, would you allow your browser to install it, even though the potential is high for breakage? And it was like, will we stop a user from doing that? In the same way, would we stop an extension from browser from installing double network extensions with doing the same thing? So it was like, I could say, I want to give users choice to do whatever they want, but also at the detriment of user choice as well, because you don't want them to say, let's allow them to install a list that hasn't been updated in 2 years, but it could potentially break things. I will get blamed for it. Like, what would happen is if you saw a list, for example, and then suddenly things start breaking for the browser. Maybe they installed it 2 weeks ago, didn't realize anything happened. Then suddenly goes onto one of the other favorite sites that handles to go, oh, is it broken? And it's the one thing that did, maybe they forgot about it 2 weeks ago, that was their list that installed. And that was that sort of similar vein here where, there's incompatibilities, there's where having 2 extensions or 2 or 3 extensions have the same issue. Lists can have the same issue where lists can have list incompatibilities with, things that haven't been updated or not updated or just bad lists in general. And I guess that's in some ways similar to this issue, is that
whether you give users choice or not, it's rude. It's hard. It's a real hard thing. Do you want to give them the choice to potentially break their browser? So it's more of a statement more than a question here, but it's something we were discussing and yes.
Oh, I was going to say on that philosophical note, I saw we were at time. So.
Well,
it's something I try to one answer. I mean, I'm not sure these are a correct answer to be fair, but
I don't really know what the question I should answer.
I've mentioned a lot of data and what's the question? It's not really a question. It was more of a statement. It's like similar to what we're talking about with the regarding extensions, and it also applies to lists as well, where someone installs a bad list or an essentially a bad extension where they has then compatibilities. That's the correlation here is that you're having incompatibilities between and giving people the choice to doing what they want, I guess, comes down to it. I think, to be honest, user choice might be a good solution, but it might not as well.
Yeah, it's
I just wanted to summarize what you were saying. Yes, the question is, should users have choice? Yes.
Yes, and like it's about focus also, like user focus. So when you install extension, you should have this information as it was updated sometimes ago, a few years ago, or something like that. We're also notifying them that this extension is probably not good. But you still have this opportunity to load your own extension. You still have opportunity to load it from developers. Yeah, so yeah, it's fun.
Very good expert. I would be careful with marking extensions as non-functional or broken just because of the age. Some extensions are taken well, work well, don't need updates. You should not give that a penalty.
We're really out of time. I'm sorry. I just want to ask something really quick. I hope for a really short answer, and then we can do a round of conclusions. So, I'm looking at you this time, because of the recent Android desktop ROM builds, we haven't seen now maybe the latest developments on the Android desktop ROM builds kind of laying the ground for web extension mobile. So I wanted to ask when are we going to see web extension mobile, if we're going to see. And I'm waiting for a solid answer. We're going to see on yeah.
I think so. The Android desktop builds are an experimental build, and there was a blog post about these back in June, and it's basically the idea of bringing the best parts of Android into Chrome OS to help improve the velocity that we can release features. As part of that, there's a lot of technical work that we need to do because we will be including extensions on that build, but the binary itself it's Android Boolean, and so we're enabling them there. The decision of mobile is orthogonal to that, so it's unfortunately so.
All right, thank you. And then I
So basically, it's out of the scope, or it's not happening at all. So yeah, it's not happening at all. Or it is. Was that the waterline?
So currently we do not have extensions on Android, and that is not related to this project or this experiment.
Okay. And I would like to, first of all, thank you all for being here. I would like to floating around for maybe a waste for next year, because we don't want to have that, maybe that next year. Maybe something bigger, maybe with any other browser extension. So I'd like to start from the left. I'll leave it on my microphone. All right. And at least for next year, until next year, you can go and specific for the family, or you can be like, I want this for far to succeed.
Initial one, I think.
All right.
Same question.
Yeah. Everyone.
Yes, thank you all for your all suggestions. We will gather updates. So we have next year. Let's see.
I would like to see the
the public community continue to work together as much as possible. I think the best things happening on, we kind of share our findings and tools and work for as a one.
And I think on my side, I think that we've had a long couple of years leading up to this summit at Big Bear in a really good spot to make a lot of impactful and cool and fun changes. And it's just kind of hoping that we can get the ground running next year and have a lot of interesting stuff come out. And then that's just hope to be like
As regular or as like part of the community with the community. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I think that the extensions ecosystem is in a good place to have a lot of interesting things happen over the course of the next year. And I'm excited to see what those are and hope that we can make a lot of progress on things. And we've been saying, yes, we really want to do this. We know it's important, but we have all this other stuff that we need to get through first. I think we've gotten through a lot of that stuff that we said we need to get through first. And so now we can go back to some of those things that have been on our collective wish lists for a long time. Thank you.
Yeah. In terms of wish for what would be nice and only if we know, I think getting more perspective from pro extension developers, just upload to more extension developers and users that are currently working that would be really nice. And then to make sure that feature requests that we haven't heard yet and are really useful, and we get them and that we have time to improve. That'd be really nice. And we are asking for the wish. I'm asking for the moon.
And with that note, thank you so much, everyone.